So let's talk a little bit about billboards. Just as a reminder, this was the original deal. It was a deal with All Vision, Metro, and the city. Take down 62 billboard structures along the Metro right-of-way. Understand that says that only billboards along the Metro right-of-way will be a part of this deal. The ones across the street will not. Okay? The ones that are off the Metro right-of-way, like the one at Sierra and Soledad that you'll pass leaving, is not part of this deal. The one at White's Canyon and Soledad is not part of this deal. Okay, so they were going to exchange taking down those 62 structures for 3 65-foot high, 14 foot wide by 48 feet wide by 14 foot high electronic billboards, 2 on Highway 14 and 1 on the 5. And then supposedly there was going to be a revenue split where the city would get about $500,000 a year, maybe, if they make enough money and don't have too many expenses. So on comes the billboard referendum. Remember, our city council passes this. Patty Scapuzio is in the room. There you are. Say hi. Okay. They went and helped champion the billboard referendum. And the thing that makes the referendums very hard, and the reason why it's almost impossible to do this without some kind of professional help, is because you have to collect the signature of 10% of the registered voters. Okay? That's a lot of signatures. So you have to have 11,000 valid signatures to be collected, and you got to do it in 30 days. All right? And I think I said it before, that's 11,000 signatures in 30 days is 30 signature gatherers working 30 days collecting 30 signatures every day. So it's a hard job. And by the way, this referendum only affects the City Ordinance 1402, which is about these 62 billboards, including the development agreement that they have with Metro. It does not talk to the issue of the city taking and rezoning open space business park, okay? And it does not take into account any of those other issues. This is simply that one issue. Well, you know what? It was great. Patty and her crew got enough signatures. We showed them last time that they put it in. They put those signatures in the City Hall, and this is the ordinance that's affected. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Santa Clarita adopting a development agreement with Metro for the removal of 62 off-site advertising structures and the construction operation of 3 digital billboards adjacent to I-5 and State Route 14. That is the only thing we're going to talk about in this upcoming election, is just the removal of those 62 structures and the construction of 3 digital structures. Now, out of that ordinance, I just grabbed a couple of things, and wanted to just talk a little bit about what the actual ordinance says. And it talks about the fact that Metro filed an application with the city, and they want to put 3 digital billboards on city-owned sites. Very different from when you read the report that went to the Metro group, which said that it was the city that proposed the sites, and All Vision that proposed the development agreement. So this is in consideration of removing only those existing billboards. And if you remember, the billboards are owned by 3 companies. They're owned by CBS, Clear Channel, and they were owned, the other small boards, by Edwards Outdoor Advertising. The city has since then, remember, bought Edwards Outdoor Advertising, so they're really no longer part of this deal anyway. They're coming down no matter what, and they didn't just buy the 22 structures on the Metro right-of-way, they bought all the structures in the whole city. Okay? And then the city has proposed to lease the sites to Metro. Interesting. Now, and when you go in the development agreement, it's not quite like a lease where you say, oh yeah, you can put it on this piece of property and we'll lease it for $24 a month or whatever. This actually is a deal that is for a portion of the net revenue. So people have to make money about this. It has to be something that's successfully sold. It has to be something that is already paid for construction, and whatever demolition Metro has to incur to get rid of the existing billboards. Then someone asked about notices, so I thought it was really interesting. I went back to read what happens to notice. Who got noticed about those digital billboards? Well, it said, notices were mailed to property owners within a 1,000 square foot radius of the proposed development sites. And I hate weasel words. I really do. So here comes some. Additional notices were mailed to residents up to 1,700 feet from the proposed Norland Road development site. Makes it sound like they noticed everybody up to 1,700 feet, but they didn't. They noticed those people in areas where the visual line of sight exhibits indicated there would be some visibility from the Norland billboard. In reality, we don't really know who they noticed. But the last part of it that just makes me tear my hair out is that it authorizes this development agreement, this ordinance, authorizes the city council to enter into billboard reduction and relocation agreements. That's plural. Notice the red arrow and the S on the end of agreement. Agreements, in which new billboards, including digital billboards, may be constructed in a designated billboard relocation overlay zone. Means there's more to come. These are not the first and only. So here we go. So right there in the development agreement, it says billboard removals will positively affect the improvements and property in the vicinity of the 62 billboard structures. Whose property is in the vicinity of these structures? Well, guess what? Yeah, it's Lorraine's property, right? Right there at the junction of Lyons and Railroad. And that's why she's had to recuse herself of this deal. So what happened? On June 24th, at the June 24th City Council meeting, the City Council had some options. With 18,000 people signing this referendum, one could have probably said it might have been a smart thing to say, wow, that's a lot of people. There may be really something to this. We can just back off, not do anything. Let's cancel this agreement for right now, and we can spend some time coming up with a better deal, or coming up with some alternate approach. And even if they couldn't have found a better deal, they could have come back with the same exact thing 1 year from that date. But what did they do? No. They decided that, and to put it in Mr. Keller's words, I don't think you knew what you were signing when you signed that referendum. So we're going to put this on a ballot and let the public decide. So it's going to go on the ballot. We're going to have a little election about this. And so on June 24th, agenda item 21, let's make sure everybody knows who did what. Keller, Acosta, McLean voted to submit this ordinance to the voters in the upcoming November election. Boyson voted no. West recused herself because of her property. On July 8th, agenda item 15, they had to make an important decision. What letter should the thing be? They said S for Santa Clarita. I have another 4-letter word that starts with S. All right. What's this going to cost you? Well, it cost you $208,000 just to put it on the ballot. It was $224,000 if you want a special election. So Bob said, you know what? I'm saving you guys $16,000. I'm going to put it on the November election. Well, you could have saved me $208,000 if you would have just backed off for a minute, right? That's not bad enough. Before they left for hiatus, they gave the city attorney a blank check and said, spend whatever you have to do to answer any questions that come up about this or any challenges that come up about this while we're on hiatus. So you got to figure it's going to cost $208,000. We're going to have legal bills. We've already expended legal bills. We have staff time. How much are we actually going to spend? Maybe $500,000? Who knows? But that's not the worst of it. See, if the city prevails, I asked this question, they wouldn't answer it. Someone talked to me before the council meeting today and said, City council meetings are really getting pretty interesting, you know. You guys come up and ask questions and they don't answer them. Very simple. Anyway, there's definitely going to be a campaign on both sides of this issue. The Outdoor Advertising Association is going to sue because they didn't get a chance to bid on this. They didn't get a chance to do anything about it, and Clear Channel and CBS, if this goes through, get evicted from the Metro right away without any compensation. So they're going to be struggling all they can to come out and say, we don't want this deal. At the same time, All Vision, the guys that are intending to make the money, they're going to be out there trying to get a campaign, they're going to try to run a campaign to get this passed. They're the same people that brought you the blockers to try to keep you from signing this thing in the first place. So now if the city prevails, will All Vision's campaign costs be passed on as a business expense and then deducted from the amount that they have to pay the city? Interesting question. I asked that question, I got no answer. So we'll just have to wait and see. This is where we are today. And the notice of election came out in the Signal. You probably can't read it, but it doesn't matter. On 7/14, so it's a real deal. They're going after this. You can go out on the city website. It has a calendar of when, if you want to protest, when the election information will be coming out, so you can read it. The pros, the cons, the independent assessment that's going to be written by our city attorney. And then when it is, you can put something up with it. So anyway, that's what's happening. We'll keep you up to date. And I was disappointed. I thought they had a way to go, but they didn't. So the chloride is the other thing that the decision got made. I thought it was extremely interesting because the sanitation district, Lorraine West, Bob Keller, and Michael Antonovich voted to adopt the 6-year rates necessary to build the option 2 treatment plant to comply with 100 milligram per liter requirement. We've gone through all that many times, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But I did want to get into the press statements because I thought it was interesting because it tells me what's coming. Okay. One of the things I've learned in the past few years in dealing with city government, I'm sure that doesn't happen with other levels, is that you have to really understand what they say. A lot of times what they're saying and what they mean are maybe two different things, right? This is Lorraine West. This project will give us a source of high-quality recycled water that we can use to create local water sustainability and help reduce our dependence on expensive imported state water. I am proud that we are able to lower the cost of complying with the state chloride mandate in the valley. You know, I love it when people come out and say, you know what, it's going to cost you $500 million to do this. And I've got some ideas. It'll only cost $300 billion. See, I saved you $200 million. Well, no, you didn't. We're still spending the other money. But the whole thing about this, when talked about the source of recycled water, creating a local water sustainability, there's an issue and a pilot program that CLWA is doing today to talk about mixing this water back into Castaic and therefore making it a part of our drinking water. Now, once the water goes through this purification plant and it goes through reverse osmosis, it's very pure. From a standpoint of contaminants that one might think of in sewage water, they're not there. But one contaminant that remains is pharmaceuticals. And so there are areas of the country now that are having problem with pharmaceutical buildup in their drinking water because of just this kind of a thing. And if in fact that occurs here, well, you won't have to buy as much medication. You'll get it in the drinking water. All right, here you go. This is Bob Keller. This is a practical business decision that is in the best interest of all our residents and businesses of the Santa Clarita Valley. So, you know what? It's going to be a good excuse now that it's going to raise the cost for all the businesses. They can pass it on to you, and it's your best interest so you can pay more for everything we get here in the Valley. We are focused on moving forward and collaborating with all the water agencies and business leaders to keep this valuable water asset here in the valley to benefit our region. We've been talking about this for a long time. Look, here's what happens. This is really what's happened. Here you go. Number one, we got a lot of water. Rain comes down, all the time. The lake levels are up, there in Whitaker Bermite, they go down 2 feet to hit water. Everything's wonderful. And someone says, let's use our recycled water because we're throwing away 20 million gallons a day in the river. And what do they say? Oh, it's too expensive. I can buy new water cheaper than it will cost me to run the pipe across the city to go and recycle. So why would I want to recycle? It could cost too much. So then all of a sudden, strangely and oddly enough, we're in California, we get a drought. And now there isn't enough water. And they go, oh, we'd love to recycle, but too late. I mean, we can't miraculously put that pipe across the city. So if you have been reading the rest of the press releases, you'll see what they said was, oh, we're going to get together with CLWA and we're going to figure out a way to use that recycled water. Well, good luck. I mean, the whole thing about this is, remember the plan for Bermite? There needs to be a plan for recycled water. And maybe it is too expensive to just throw money at it and build it all at once. But it should be that you throw a little money at it every year and you get a little closer to that goal and know that someday you're going to have that recycled water. Because otherwise, all that purple pipe that you're putting in the ground is just a joke. Oh, by the way, remember there's also 60,000 gallons a day coming out from under Shangri-La. And it is very close to a lot of where the purple pipe is. So we'll have to wait and see if they decide to go do something. But when they say CLWA owns the water, it's not that CLWA owns the water, it's that, and sometimes I think we just have too many agencies working at the same time. So you got the issue of the sanitation district. They treat sewage, and then, but they're not allowed to sell that product. They have to sell it to a water wholesaler. Who's the water wholesaler in our area? CLWA, right? And CLWA, they can't sell it to you. They have to sell it to a retailer, right? Now, in this particular case, one of the retailers in the area is CLWA, right? So that's how they talk about the control of water. So anyway, the Sand District put out a press release. I love it because they did it again. They said, and you know what? We're going to phase it in gradually. It's only going to be $8.33 a month. I know you guys can't multiply. That's $100 a year. That's not $100 a year. That's $100 a year on top of what you're paying today. And that's providing that their costs stay the same over 30 years. Anybody want to believe that? No. So here's what happens. The next step is, and this is their press release, not my words, their words. The next step is to seek approval of a 4-year extension of the state's May 15th construction deadline to prevent us from getting fined and lose local control. You've heard that speech enough times from them. And the reason why this is because even when we passed this, we didn't pass something in compliance to what they wanted. They've said we can't make the deadline. We talked to them, I don't know how many times during the EIR process and said, what about using averaging to make the plant smaller? And they said, oh no, can't do that. But now their plan includes averaging, which isn't approved. So they got to get a basin plan amendment. They got to get a construction deadline changes. They got to get a whole bunch of stuff. It's all got to be approved by May, before May of 2015, next year, or we're back in the saddle again. So we'll see what happens. Just remember, this is what I talked to them at the last time they were there. I think it's highly reasonable because you're going to pay the bill. These are their costs. I mean, these are their numbers and their costs in 2012 dollars. that today we have a capacity of our water treatment plants of 27.5 million gallons a day, but we only treat 20. My premise is the current user should only pay to expand the plant for 20 million gallons a day. Those other 27% or 7.5 million gallons a day, thank you, is what new users are going to use. We're not going to use them. So what it says is we're going to pay 27% more than what we use, $35 million. And so what's going to happen to you is you're going to be paying somewhere around a $3,000 retroactive connection fee financed over 30 years. That's what's going to happen to us. And it should be less. But I raised the question. What do you think they answered? Nothing. We didn't answer. All right. Here's a few points to remember. Cost of the project, they finally admitted at the last informational meeting, the cost of this project is not $130 million, it's $205 million, because that's how much it costs to borrow the money for 30 years. That's their number. My number says, from the last time they went through this, it's another $100 million to run the plant for the 30 years. So that's where the numbers, and they started talking about it almost in that way, that's where the numbers of that it's going to suck $1/3 billion out of the Santa Clarita economy for the next 30 years. This is a done deal. It's going to be more than that. This is what's happening. This is what your elected officials voted for. They also voted to save us money by spending $1 million for public outreach consulting with Community Conservation Solutions. And right until the last meeting, if it didn't irk me more than anything else, was to see Esther Ferdman at those meetings making $300 an hour to sit there and watch what happened and not say one word. Lorraine West was a Community Conservation Solution board member when the contract with the city, remember the one that was written behind closed doors because it was under $50,000? It was $49,900, never mind. And she's known about it the whole time. So when you make your yearly payment, think about it. You're going to be paying 30% more than what you use. Lorraine West and Bob Keller will pay nothing because they're on septic systems and they're not in the sanitation district. All right? So the plan is not final. We'll be getting back. Will they be coming back for more money? You betcha. We'll have to wait and see what happens. City Council hiatus, they, as usual, they left us on July the 8th with their last meeting, and we're going to see them again in session on August the 26th. So that's the time to go back and ask them questions if you want to about some of that stuff. Are there any other questions about this? Yes, ma'am.
I know that you had asked them to consider what the other folks, the new folks, are going to pay. It should be deducted from the amount, and they just wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't answer.
That's right.
So we can keep asking that question.
I wanted to mention that the city of Lancaster has a recycled water system. It put all the purple pipes in all the streets going north and south, all the streets going east and west. It's been a huge project. I believe everybody in the community, the city, the county, water district, have all been involved. And I'm willing to bet there is much in the way of federal government grants to do this, but it's being done for the entire benefit of that city. Here, the very first recycled water project went west of the freeway to you-know-whose property and to the golf course and to their development. And CLWA paid all the cost of all the pipes and pumps that fed that water, feeds that water presently over there. And that's our recycled water that's going over there. You're right, we need somebody to be in charge of the recycled water program here, but it ought to be a combined, honest group that's willing to spread the recycled water amongst all of those that are actually generating the recycled water and have paid for it.
Okay.
I have a question, but it's on the billboards, but you didn't ask for questions, so I'll ask it now.
Okay.
Your presentations are very obviously in one direction, and I've asked before, is there going to be a presentation by persons who are proponents of the ordinance, not opponents? Because we keep hearing the bad stuff, but we're not hearing the other side. And the impression given, I think, to most people is that the entire community is against them, and that's not the case.
Well, I know. There's 18,000 people didn't know what they were signing. But when this thing gets going, there will be 2 campaigns running. And when there are 2 campaigns running, we'll bring in both sides of the campaign in our typical way and have them both talk one against the other.